An anchor protects a ship from the storm, but it also keeps it from ever seeing the ocean. Sometimes safety becomes the most comfortable prison a person can live in. The strange thing is that most people only realize this much later in life, after they have already spent years standing in the same harbor. We are born with horizons in our eyes. As children, every one of us is sailing somewhere toward dreams, toward courage, toward a world that feels endless. But at some point, the first anchor appears, a sense of security, a voice that quietly says, "Stay here. It's safer." At first, it feels like a gift, because storms are frightening. The unknown is frightening. From the shore, the ocean looks beautiful, almost peaceful, like music moving across the water. But when you sail into it, you realize the ocean is not calm. It's alive. It moves, it roars. Sometimes it lifts you higher than you've ever been, and sometimes it tries to break you. That's why many people choose to stay in the harbor. They drop their anchor and tell themselves, "This is better. This is safer." And over time, that anchor stops being a choice. It becomes a way of life. Days begin repeating themselves like a quiet tide. You wake up and do what you did yesterday. You walk the same streets, say the same words, think the same thoughts. Everything is stable. Everything is predictable. Everything is safe. And somewhere deep inside, something begins to stir. A strange feeling, as if a part of you has been locked away, as if your soul knows life was meant to be bigger than this small harbor. Imagine a captain who once sailed through a violent storm. The waves were so powerful, he nearly lost his ship. So he dropped his anchor and made a promise to himself. Never again. Never again would he risk being destroyed by the sea. At first, that decision was wisdom. After a storm, you need rest. After survival, you need quiet. But years passed. And one day the captain realized something unsettling. The ocean had been calm for a long time, but he was still holding on to the anchor. Sometimes the greatest danger isn't the storm. Sometimes the greatest danger is the calm that lasts too long. Because the human soul was never meant to stand still. It was meant to move, to explore, not just to survive, but to experience. That's where faith quietly enters the story. Not as loud bravery, but as a whisper that sometimes appears late at night when everything else becomes silent. It asks a simple question. What would happen if you lifted the anchor? Not because you know exactly where you're going, but because somewhere deep inside, you feel the ocean is waiting for you. Faith doesn't mean the storm will never come. Faith means you sail anyway, because the meaning of life is not perfect safety. The meaning of life is the journey itself. It lives in those moments when the wind hits your face, when waves crash against the hull, when you don't know what waits beyond the horizon, but you keep moving forward anyway. Some people spend their entire lives safely tied to their anchor. They never lose the ship, but they never see the ocean either. They never feel that moment when the horizon opens so wide that you suddenly understand the world is far bigger than you were ever told. And then one day, something changes. Sometimes it's exhaustion from routine. Sometimes it's a single question. Sometimes it's the quiet realization that time is moving faster than your courage. And suddenly, you look at your anchor, at everything that protected you, at everything that kept you steady, and for the first time, you see it differently, not just as protection, but as a limit. And in that moment, a choice is born, because life never forces you to lift the anchor. It only asks a quiet question. Do you want to see the ocean? Courage is rarely loud. Most of the time, it arrives in silence. It is the moment when your hand touches the cold chain and your heart beats faster than your mind can explain. It's the moment when you realize there may be storms ahead. There may be mistakes. There may be days when you want to run back to the harbor. But you also realize something else. If you stay, a part of you will always know the ocean was left unseen. And then a small miracle happens. You lift the anchor, Not because you aren't afraid, but because you've decided life is worth more than just safety. And as the ship begins to move, the wind finally fills the sails again, the horizon opens, and your heart remembers a feeling it almost forgot: freedom. In that moment, you understand a simple truth. Safety may protect your ship, but only the journey can awaken your soul. Sometimes you have to release what once protected you. Sometimes you have to risk comfort to discover meaning. Because life is not a harbor. Life is an ocean. And if you ever feel that your days have become too quiet, that your dreams have grown too small, that your heart is longing for something greater, look at your anchor. Feel its weight. And remember this: an anchor protects a ship from the storm, but it also keeps it from ever seeing the ocean. Sometimes safety is the most beautiful prison we build for ourselves. And sometimes all it takes to begin living again is the courage to lift the anchor